Hare Krishna. The mind is not inherently our enemy. It is circumstantially our enemy. Often when we talk about how the mind is a very dangerous force in our spiritual life, that it can make us do terrible anti-devotional things, and how we are told that we should be always on guard, knowing that the mind can be our enemy. So we may develop an aversion to the mind. Such an aversion is unhealthy because after all we have to live with the mind, and this is the only mind we have. Suppose two people had to live together for whatever reason, and if one of them hates the other person, then they will not be able to function properly. So now if the other person is in some way a troublemaker, then this first person has to be cautious. Okay, let me be on alert, but that does not mean the first person should hate the other person, because that hatred will sabotage any working relationship that might otherwise be possible. So similarly, when we look at the mind, we have to be aware that it can act in inimical ways, and it does indeed act many times in inimical ways. But that does not mean that it is intrinsically or inherently our enemy. The mind is basically a reservoir of desires, impressions and memories, and these shape its content. So it is circumstantially our enemy, in the sense that based on our circumstance, based on what we have put in the mind in the past, it is prompting us in particular directions. Consider, for example, say if in the past we were, say, before we started practicing spiritual life, we were, say, mad about Bollywood. So we may be repeatedly in our computer searching for Bollywood. So in our browser, whenever we put B, as soon as B is put, because we have searched for Bollywood so many times, what comes is, as autocomplete, is Bollywood. Now say we have become more spiritually interested, and now we want to know about Bhagavad Gita. So again we put B over there. But as soon as we put B, the browser gives the autocomplete Bollywood. And if we are not careful, we might just click yes and we might go off to Bollywood, to some sites about Bollywood, which we may not want to go because it may be spiritually distracting. So in this case, it is not that the computer or the browser is inherently our enemy. It is circumstantially based on whatever searches we have done in the past, it is now simply offering the autocompletes accordingly. So of course we have to be cautious. If we don't, that is not the site we want to go to, then as soon as B comes, we don't look at the autocomplete, or we don't let the autocomplete get completed. We change it and we type Bhagavad Gita. So, and if we keep typing Bhagavad Gita repeatedly for a substantial amount of time, then gradually that will become the prominent autocomplete, and then Bollywood will go into the background, and whenever we type B, Bhagavad Gita will come. So similarly, for us right now, as soon as we think of pleasure, our mind immediately autocompletes. Pleasure means sensual pleasure, pleasure means worldly pleasure, and then as soon as we feel a need for pleasure, it prompts us, it drags us towards worldly pleasures. But if we consider in contrast that actually because of these desires, the mind may be acting as our enemy. But the Bhagavad Gita also says, Bandhuratma atmanastasya yenatmaivatmana jitaha anatmanastu shatrutve vartetatmaiva shatruvat. It says in 6.6 in the Bhagavad Gita that for one who has controlled the mind is the best friend, and for one who has failed to do so, the mind is the worst enemy. So this means that the mind can also be our friend. So the mind may propose to go off in certain sensual directions, but if we do not accept its propositions, we conscientiously push it in devotional directions, we focus on Krishna, on service to Krishna, on things related with Krishna, then gradually these things will become impressed within it, and then eventually it will prompt us towards Krishna. So, the mind which was circumstantially our enemy because of the impressions we had put there in the past, if we consistently now put spiritual impressions, it will become our friend. So, by seeing the mind's enmity and animosity towards us as circumstantial, not inherent, we can avoid aversion, and at the same time we can have due caution, but also work pragmatically for the mind's reformation. Thank you. Hare Krishna.